Good morning, my dear children. How are you all? Hope you all are doing good and staying safe. Welcome to another session in English. Today, we are going to discuss the second part of the story, The Strategist by Saki. But before going to begin the session, let us recapitulate the first part. The story, The Strategist, deals with a party organized by Mrs. Jallet, where young people come in regularly, play games, and have a lavish food. The key characters of the story are Rollo, Rhodsleys, and Mrs. Jallet. The story started with a game proposed by Rhodsleys. Rollo had known the game well in advance and he had a plan to play it if his faction was a majority. The young girls were not much interested with that game. The virtuosos locked themselves in the library to ensure that their discussions were not interrupted or overheard, and then the girls should say the word. The girls were not much interested in the game as it was not properly organized by the boys. The game entered with the announcement of supper. It was a good policy by Mrs. Jallet that she would neither keep less food nor extra for her young guest on her supper table. Now let us continue. Here you have the textual images of the remaining portions of the lesson, The Strategist. I request all of you to read it well. Here you have some new words come in these images. First one, conjurer, means magician. Then comes foreseen. It means predicted. Confederates, individuals who help each other to carry out some plan. Fourth, mythical. Mythical means imaginary. Fifth one, devotes. Aids quickly or greedily. Then comes plunged, pushed quickly. And last one, unanimously, means together or without exception. Now let us continue with the summary of the second part of the story, The Strategist. 1 against the 3. Mrs. Jallet had kept 16 peaches for 14 children, but 3 peaches were less because 2 Rotsley brothers and their cousin had quietly pocketed an extra peach. As a result, only 1 peach was left for Dolores and Agnes. When Dolores thought to share the leftover one with Hobbs, Agnes hastily devoured the peach, explaining that the juice would go waste if it was cut. After refreshment, Mrs. Jallet apologetically informed her guest that the professional conjurer whom she had invited to entertain everyone was not able to come, and she also asked anyone to recite. By hearing this, everyone got panicked, as they knew that Dolores would start her farm, Locksley Hall, on the least encouragement also. By the time Rollo declared that he could do a few conjuring tricks, and that gave a little relief to all. Here, as you know, Rollo had to fight against the other 3, 2 Rotsley brothers and their cousin. Mrs. Jallet had kept 16 peaches for 14 children on her supper table. But 2 Rotsley brothers and their cousin had already pocketed an extra peach. As a result, 3 peaches were less and only 1 was left for Dolores and Agnes to share. Whereas Agnes was very concerned about others as well as she thought that if she shared the peach with Dolores, the juice would go waste. So she ate it herself. After the refreshment, Mrs. Jallet said sorry to her guests that she had already invited the professional magician. But he informed her that he was not able to come, and she also asked anyone to recite. When the girls heard this, everybody got panicked because they knew very well that Dolores would start her home Locksley Hall with the least encouragement also. Anyhow, everyone got relaxed when Rollo declared that he could do some conjuring tricks. The skillful formulation and implementation of a good strategy. Here comes the real strategy of the strategist Rollo. He had announced that you would have seen the conjurers taking various things from people with their magical tricks, and here he is going to take something different from some of you. Then everyone screamed fruits. Without much ado, Rollo moved straight to his trio of enemies, plunged his hands into their jackets, and produced the three peaches. Though there were no hand clapping, but still the silence of the failure of his enemies greeted his strategy. Mrs. Jarlett asked Rollo whether he knew any more tricks. Even though he didn't know any, he hinted that he might have changed the three peaches into something else. But Agnes disappointed him by eating the low speech. Here we can see the skillful implementation of a good strategy by Rollo. He already announced that normally the conjurers are taking various things from people, and here he is also going to do something from some of you. Then everybody screamed for fruits. Without having a second thought, he moved straight to his trio of enemies, or the three enemies, the two Wrottesley brothers and their cousin, pushed his hands into their pockets and produced the three peaches. His strategy got its victory, even though there were no hand clapping, but the silence of the failure of his enemies that gave him all the success. After that, Mrs. Jarlett asked Rollo whether he knew any other tricks. Really, he didn't know any tricks, but still he just hinted that he might have changed the three peaches into something else. But the foodie Agnes disappointed him very badly by eating one of the lost peaches. One last master plan. The younger Rotsley came up with the idea of another game that the boys would go outside and guess a character in history and would act it, then the girls should see that from their imitation. By the time Rollo was about to leave, then Mrs. Jarrett forced him to stay for some more time and to enjoy the evening. Then Rollo remarked that they hadn't heard Dolores' song, but everyone unanimously cried for the history game. Rollo thought of applying one last strategy. Through the younger Rotsley brother, he passed the information that some chocolates are left in the library. Soon, the news was taken with utmost care and concern by Agnes and her friends. They went to the library in search of the mythical chocolates, and all their efforts to find them were in vain. Rollo was sitting on a chair and enjoyed all the commotion, and finally, when his carriage came, he thanked Mrs. Jarlett for such a wonderful and enjoyable evening. Here we can see, even though Rollo, the strategist, he was alone and fighting against the trio, but he was having his own master plan. The younger Wrotsley brother came up with an idea of another game that to assume a character in history and they would act it in front of the girls and they should say from their imitation who is the character. It was the time for Rollo to leave, and when he approached Mrs. Jarlett, then she forced him to stay for some more time and to enjoy the evening. Then purposefully Rollo remarked that they hadn't heard Dolores' song, but he himself understood the consequences also. But anyhow, everybody unanimously cried for the history game. By the time Rollo thought of applying one last strategy. Through the younger Wrotsley brother, he passed the information that some chocolates were left in the library. Soon the news spread over there, and Agnes and her friends took it with great consideration and they rushed to the library in search of the mythical chocolates. And we could hear some sounds from the library, moving the furniture, searching for the chocolates everywhere, and all their efforts were in vain. Rollo was sitting on a chair and he was enjoying all the commotion. And when his carriage came, he thanked Mrs. Jallet for providing such a wonderful and enjoyable evening there. So here we could see the real strategy or the real master plan from Rollo. Here you have an exercise taken from your course book. Match the following to complete the sentences. I request all of you to do it in your textbook. Here you have the answers for the exercise given in the previous slide. Kindly check your answers. With this, we have come to the end of today's session. I hope you would have enjoyed the lesson, the strategist, as we all would like to play some tricks against the ones with whom we have some sort of enmity. But it's not good to have others or to keep anybody as our enemies. Anyhow, I hope you would have got the story clear. Stay safe. Thank you.